Then we'll begin. Yeah, we are live, Vijay. Okay, so
wait. Let us conclude it. We are live. We are live. And yes, you're live. All of you are live.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Hi. Yeah.
People can see you.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, first of all. And thank you very much for joining us today for this exciting talk by Shaeema Zaman from Aarhus University, Denmark, about quantum games. I'm really excited to have you here, Shaeema. Before we go on with your lecture, I would like to just brief my audience about your background. So Shaeema and I go a long way. We both were classmates in Miranda House, and we did PhD in physics. Sorry, not PhD in physics. I'm sorry. We did BSc in physics from Miranda House, and Shaeema is currently a PhD student in the quantum measurements and manipulation group at Aarhus University, led by Professor Jacob Fries-Shershen. She graduated in M.Sc Physics from University of Delhi, where she specialized in astrophysics. Currently, her primary research area is in the field of visualization and gamification of complex quantum control tasks, which sound really abstract and scary even for a physics graduate, but Shaeema just turns it into a game. So we are all really excited and looking forward to hearing her talk. She also is interested in investigating the use and impact of quantum games and simulation tools for research, education, and outreach. Prior to starting a PhD, Shaeema has worked extensively in the science communication space in India. So a warm welcome once again, Shaeema, and I'm really, really excited to have you on board and looking forward to hearing your exciting and interesting talk about quantum games. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Darshana and VigyanShaala, for having me over. Thank you for this lovely introduction. And yes, so I'm going to begin now. And hopefully everyone can see my presentation. So like Darshana said, I'm going to present about quantum games. And so this is going to be the outline of my talk. I'm going to first very briefly talk about my background, which Darshana has already mentioned. And then I'm going to talk about citizen science games from where I work, ScienceAtHome. So I work with this research company, so I call ScienceAtHome, and we are based in Aarhus University in Denmark. And then I'm going to break it down to, okay, citizen science games. So what is citizen science? And how am I using it in my PhD project, which is such as citizen science and quantum control. And then I'm going to specifically talk about one game called Quantum Moves 2. So let's begin. This is my background. So like Darshana said, so me and Darshana, we were together in Miranda House. That's when I did my BSc Physics. Then I did my master's in Delhi University again. There I focused, my specialization was astrophysics. But then I started working after my master's, and this was a science communication company in New Delhi. And then there we had astronomy workshops and camps. So I was a science educator and communicator there. And then I moved to Denmark about 3 years ago, and I started as an intern at ScienceAtHome, Aarhus University. And over there, after my internship, 3 months, I started doing my PhD. So my PhD is part of a Marie Curie EU project. So I also wanted to acknowledge them. It's called Cusco. And so basically my funding comes from a EU fund. All right, so that is my background. And now where specifically I work, ScienceAtHome. So this is a little bit of background of who I work with. That's because when I make games, it's sort of a very interdisciplinary team. And we have ScienceAtHome has a diverse team of researchers, both physics and also non-physicists. We have data scientists, we have game developers, designers, and visual artists. So it's this sort of new interdisciplinary research team, and I really enjoy working in such a team. And the main focus of our research group is that we create citizen science games. So we create games and even platforms, so some sort of tools or interface, and where people can participate. anyone, irrespective of whatever scientific background they have or whatever skills they have. So we allow citizens to participate in our research, and with the aim of revolutionizing scientific research, or finding a new perspective on how to do research. And we also use our games for education, so for different workshops and modules that teachers can use in their classrooms as well. All right, so citizen science games. So very briefly, now citizen science has many definitions. That's because it's a very upcoming field. But to put it very broadly, it's when we crowdsource data or solutions for a research problem. So let's say you have a research problem. It could be anything. It could be something that comes from your community. You want to check what is the water quality in your community. So you would crowdsource data from that. People would collect water samples, and so that way you contribute. Or it could be also on a more what I work with in quantum physics is more about how can we control atoms and how can we gain solutions about a research problem like that. So this is crowdsourcing data. And the beauty of citizen science is that general public can participate regardless of your scientific background. So it could be young students, or it could be a graduate. You don't necessarily need to be an expert in the topic to be part of the research problem. And that's one of the specialties of citizen science. Then the third part is the results of these games are openly shared. So what usually happens is when we crowdsource data solutions for a research problem, we also analyze that data, and then we compare, we look for good solutions. We have to also look for things like, okay, maybe this data has a lot of noise in some sense. So and then we do all the data analysis, and then we also share the results that came from the game, and we share it openly. Usually it is shared through a publication, or through an article, or through a website. So these are some examples of citizen science games. So the first actually sort of breakthrough was this game called Folded. So Folded is a game in biology where it's a game where you solve puzzles, and the puzzles are about protein folding. So in your body, you have these protein structures, and then the many combinations of how you can fold it. And it was a challenge for scientists to figure out the best configuration. That's because there's so many possibilities. So they would otherwise make an algorithm that the computer would do it, but they still wanted to see what are the different possible solutions. So they made a game and they put it out there. Everyone played the game, and they actually gave solutions. And it was actually found that some solutions given by the players were even better than what the computer could generate. And there were some, of course, that were also not good. But then it was in the first place surprising that when you crowdsource solutions, you can actually find some good solutions as well without them knowing about the problem. So they're using just their intuition or their skills on how they play a game. Some problem-solving skills that we always use in our day-to-day life. When you apply it in the game, you can actually find some good solutions. The second one is Eterna. Eterna is also a biology, and this was when you solve these puzzles, you help invent new medicine. So you design different kinds of molecules, and you combine them, which can help in new drug design. So this is also a very famous project. And then we have Zooniverse, which is a collection of many projects, and they have from physics to biology to environmental science, and there are lots of things in this. But this is one of the biggest collection of citizen science projects. So if you're interested they're a lot of fun because it's like a game. So you're actually also playing a game, and while playing a game, you're contributing to a research problem. So it's so if you want to be in that, play a game, and while playing a game, you contribute to science, and I think that's really wonderful. Okay, so now how am I applying citizen science in quantum control? So in my research group, we work with quantum control. So I want to break down what is quantum control. So quantum means something that is really, really, really small. So when we talk about atoms or molecules, anything that is really small. So when we control atoms, or physical or any chemical process in the atomic scale. So, and we can control these atoms for, it could be any purpose. We want to have control over these atoms so that we want them to behave or combine or react the way we want them to, so that we can either make new drugs or make new technology and so on. So that's why it's important to be able to control atoms. And so what we want to do is, even for us as scientists, it's a challenge how best we can control atoms, because they are so small, and we also have to do it really fast. And when it's fast, it's almost less than a millisecond. So if I have to just move an atom from one place to another place, and also these distances are really small, like micrometer and nanometer, and the time scale is also microsecond or sometimes milliseconds. So that's where the challenge comes in. There's so many ways to do it, but how can you do it the fastest way and with the best, closest to what we want? So what we thought was, let's make it into a game and put the game out, and when everyone can play this game, and that way we find solutions how to control these atoms. So that's why it's people-powered problem solving. So as a scientist, we have these problems to solve, but then we've also given the people to empower them to also contribute in this research. It's an also upcoming research field. That's because, like I mentioned, we want to make new drug design or quantum technology. There's a lot of experimental work that's also going on. Yes, again, I touched upon this. It's necessary for quantum technology. And I think most of you must have heard about the new second quantum revolution, where we're building quantum computers, quantum sensors, so sort of very high precision GPS systems, clocks, and so on. All right. So again, now I want to explain quantum control, but what is the framework, or how do we find solutions to this? So as an example, I want to show this. Here the control problem is, so for every quantum control, there's a problem where you have a task to do. So in this picture, the task is this is your target ship, and then you want to shoot a cannonball and hit the target. So now you're on sea. So you have these external factors. You have to take into consideration the distance, then there's sort of wind flowing in the sea, so your ship is swaying. So you need to you need to hit this target. So how do you begin? You first do an estimate. Okay, this is what I think it's going to work. So you take a guess that, okay, at this particular angle, I'm going to shoot the cannon, and then let's see if it hits the ship. And then you do an experiment. Okay, but you actually see that it doesn't reach the ship. It reaches just before. So you actually have to have a better estimate. And then so basically this is exactly the cycle that happens in quantum control. You want to move an atom from or move or manipulate it, and you first start with a guess, an estimate. Okay, this is the closest estimate, and that estimate comes from some previous knowledge about the problem or your intuition. That okay, let's start with this guess, and then you optimize on that guess. So you get this result, and you feel, oh, okay, we have to optimize on the angle a little bit more, or we have to take into account the wind direction. So then you optimize your guess again, and this is the cycle. And this is what exactly we also do when we want to control atoms in an experiment. So we make a theory out of it, saying that, okay, these are the guesses, these are the initial estimates, the way you can do it, and then we optimize on that using some optimization algorithms, which the computer does. All right, so the two ways finding how to control atoms. This is what it's usually done, a purely computational approach. So we write an algorithm, and we say we want to achieve this task. We want the atom to move from here, from point A to point B, and how fast we want it to move, this fast and this accurately, and so on. We write algorithms and put it into a computer, and we make the computer generate many solutions. And then we take some solutions from there and try it out on an experiment. The other thing is citizen science approach. So we actually make a game where they have to control atoms, and then we could save all that data, look at the data, and see how if we could find any good solutions on how to control atoms. All right, so these are the two approaches. So usually computational approach is used, but we are also trying to use citizen science approach, and that's what's sort of novel about this project. Very few citizen science projects exist with quantum physics in it. So that's what we tried, and now finding these optimal solutions is like if you're going for a hike or trek, and then you have, a lot of these mountain peaks. It's finding the optimal solution is like finding the highest top of many mountain peaks. So if you're going for a hike, and here the twist is that you're blindfolded, so you don't know which is the top, but you keep on climbing till you find the top of a hill. But it might so happen that after you reach the top of a hill, there's actually another top. So this is what like the nature of the problem is. So you might find a good solution, but actually if you try out more, you might actually find a better solution. So even the computer tries to do that. So we tell the algorithm, okay, we need to find the best solution, and then the computer does it with different algorithms, and we find the. But there are some algorithms that they find only this peak. There's some algorithms that find the highest peak, but not all can. So that's why it's also a difficult problem for also the computer. So we have to keep on trying out different estimates, and then the computer optimizes it for us. This is how the computer would actually see it. So you would have multiple peaks, and these small dots over here are the initial guesses, and then you climb up. So you don't have to understand the entire graph here. I just wanted to sort of show when we computationally map the solutions, it looks like a landscape like this, very like rugged landscape with lots of mountain peaks. And then here you have to find the tallest peak. The tallest peak is basically the best solution. And that's what the computer or the algorithm struggles to find. That's because we're dealing with atoms here. Now, these atoms are really hard to control because they have these different quantum properties, and they just don't want to behave the way we want them to, so to speak. All right. And then, so now I also want to compare what's the difference, because we have the computational approach, and then we also have this human problem-solving approach, right? So just to see how do these two different systems work. So when you have a computer, they're good at math, they're usually high speed. You can have something that's repeating forever. You can have something that's for high accuracy. So you do a math calculation, it will exactly tell you how many numbers after the decimal point. But on the human side, we have creativity, we have intuition, and this is something that the computer doesn't know. Computer doesn't know how to adapt. If something doesn't work well, the computer will not adapt to a better solution on its own, unless we explicitly ask it to do, through an algorithm. But humans are good at these things. So, and that's what we're hoping, that when they play this game, they use their creativity, intuition, and adaptability, so that when they know, okay, this is not going the right way, I'm not being able to control the atom in a good way, they'll adapt their strategy. So we want to so these two different systems have their strengths and weaknesses, and our goal is to sort of combine how is the combination of this computational and this gamified citizen science approach is a useful method to find ways of controlling atoms. So you can graphically sort of imagine this. We're combining the strengths of the computer, strengths of human problem solving through a game, and trying to find out, is this a useful approach to actually do research, to find solutions to some quantum physics problem. Are there any questions? I don't know, because I think I'm just looking at the screen. Are there any questions at this point? Or should I take questions at the end, Darshana or Vijay? What do you... Okay, I think I'll move on. 1 second. Yes. So, okay, so this is my small drawing that I wanted to, when I think about combining a game, combining people playing the game and looking for solutions which is the highest, tallest mountain peak, this is how I imagine it in my head. So exploring quantum control solutions using this game called Quantum Moves 2. And so now I'm going to introduce you to the game. So this is how the game looks like, where here you have this atom, and you have to move it from here to a target place here. So you have to control it quickly. And this shows you how long you took. And fidelity is how well you control the atom. So fidelity is like a term in physics to quantify how well you control it. And then you can try once, and let's say you're very close to it, you can optimize it. So then the computer does it for you. Because when we're playing with your mouse, and sometimes your hand can be very shaky, right, while moving the atom. So those sort of small corrections or small optimizations, the optimizer can do it for you, and also improves your solution. And this optimizer is a optimization algorithm that's actually used in computer science. So this is where you move the atom, and when you optimize, you actually see these different solutions here. And then you can press on one and then optimize. You can see a score. You also see a top score. You can also get some help as set as goals. So most games have this. So if you're struggling to find a solution, you can pick a best solution and follow it. So follow it and mimic that solution. So we calling it a set of scores. You can also replay a solution. So if you think you found a good way to control atoms, you could replay it, see it again and again, and get some inspiration. And then the next solution could be similar to that. Okay, so now I want to show you from an experimental point of view, what does this represent? This green line is a laser that traps the atom. Okay, so if I put it here, so if you see this green line over here, green curve. So this is in an experiment. What happens is we trap atoms using very, very powerful focus lasers. So these powerful focus lasers are put on top of like a plane of atoms. Each tiny dot is an atom. The laser is focused on top of this, and then one of the atoms, if you zoom into one of them, you see it's like a well like this. So we call this the potential well, where this is the atom that's sitting inside. And you can see the dimension, it's 1 micrometer. So it's really, really small, really small length. So this is what we want. This is what we're simulating in the game. So this curve is what is created here by the laser, and the atom here is basically representing this atom. Now, so the atom is both a wave and a particle. So we have it depends on the type of experiments you're working with, that sometimes the wave nature dominates, or sometimes the particle nature dominates. So in the game, we have chosen to show it as a wave, and that's when you move it, the wave moves. So it's sort of like liquid moving when you're moving a cup. Okay, so I think I have a video. I think that will make it clear. Oh, okay. Before we move to the video, you don't have to understand these equations, but I think I wanted to highlight was everything that is in the game, there is a mathematical modeling behind it. So this curve, once I move the atom from here to here, how the atom is going to evolve, there's a equation that says that. So all the movement of the atom happens based on this equation. How do you control this atom is this combination of these two potential wells, which in an experiment would be a laser. So you're controlling lasers, and how does this laser create this depth and width? They're all given by math. So when we made the game, there was a lot that got into it. We had the physics team who thought about, okay, how do we model each of these things, taking the math and physics and putting it into a game. Then we had to speak to the game developers who actually make the game. So, who actually have a good representation of what we want to say. Because if we have to put equations in the game, no one is going to play the game. So we also had to make the game look approachable for people who will not understand these things, or it's sort of new to them. So, and then every time you play the game, the data is stored in a database, and then over there we can see how well you control the atom. I'm going to show a quick video because I think the video will sort of show it'll be the best way to show how the game is played. So here I have to pick the atom and actually come back. That's the task in this game. So you bring it, and then you can see the atom behaves like the sloshy liquid. Like if I'm holding a glass of water, and if I have to, hold it and run, the water is going to slosh. And similarly, that's what happens here. And then you can select a solution, and then you can see the solution going up. That's where the optimization is happening. And then your score is here. You can also, so you compete with other people, and someone in this level has made this 3000 as the top score. So this is what the game looks like. I think it went a little quickly here, so I just want to go back. Yes. So what I wanted to show is, you get back here, and then when you optimize, you can see this moving. Then you can see the time that it was taken and how well it was moved. So each of these dots are one solution, and each solution consists of many, many small points that we constructed back again, and we say, okay, this is the path that was used by the player to move the atoms. And then we analyze it through an algorithm that picks the best ones, and then we put hope is to put it in a real experiment. We haven't done that yet, but then from the theory we see, okay, this is a good solution, because we know what a good solution should look like. Okay, so right now we just wrote a paper about the game and the results we got. So I just wanted to give a brief overview of what we found. We actually found that players have provided new techniques of tackling the problem. Some algorithms, they found some new strategies of moving the atom, which the algorithm has found, people have found, but the algorithms have not found. So it's the two. It also happens. It's because we crowdsource it, so we actually get a large pool of solutions, and then so they span this solution. They span this possibility of solutions a lot more than what an algorithm does, or we have to try out different algorithms to reach what we want. We also see some pattern of strategies. Like I mentioned, we're very good at adapting to a new strategy. So we actually saw if they were having problems controlling the atom in one particular way, they would adapt it quickly to another way. And the switch was much faster. But what happens in a computer is a computer just looks at these numbers. It doesn't have this overall sort of bird's eye view of, okay, now the algorithm has to adapt at this point. So we also got a lot of strategies and a lot of different patterns of strategies. We've also tried to compare the control paths given by the player with the computational strategies. And the future hope is that we can combine some of the computer strategies, that it can be inspired from the player's gameplay. So creating this sort of hybrid intelligence, so hybrid union of the computer solutions and the player solutions. Then I also want to give some numbers behind the scene, how many players we've had so far. So we've had approximately 1,500 players. We launched the game in December 2018. And so far we've had 1,500. We have many levels in the game, about 26. And we have 3 scientific levels. Scientific levels in the sense that we've actually looked at some real experiments, and it's a simulation of a real experiment. So we have 32,376 player solutions now. The players could also optimize the solutions, but we actually saw not so many players wanted to optimize. Out of 32,000, we find about 13,400 want to optimize. And we think it's because they don't find it that interesting enough to see the solution optimized, because there could be very small changes in during optimization. Players also optimize on an average for 100 iterations. So when you press the optimizer, it can iterate for many steps. And on a computer, typically, we give it for about 1,000 iterations. And the players don't have that patience to wait for so long. So they just usually iterate for 100 iterations. And we're sort of learning from these things, because the next time we design the second version of the game, we want to have the optimizer running in the background, perhaps. And so that the players don't have to, they just have to press it once and it'll run in the background. Now, and computationally, if we need to find good solutions, we need to find so many solutions that we usually need a computer cluster. So we collaborate with the Department of Computer Science, where they have these computer clusters, and these computer clusters are almost 100 computers running in parallel. So if you think about the citizen science approach, this computational power is also distributed because people are playing the game on their laptop or on their desktop, and you're crowdsourcing also this computational power from the different devices. And not you might in the future not need a computer cluster if this is one of the promising ways to actually crowdsource solutions. It also takes a long time. So we give some, let's say if we have 7,200 initial guesses. So remember I mentioned about to control the atom, we first come up with some guesses. And these guesses come from either intuition or some prior knowledge. And these, if you have 7,000, they about take. So we put it in there and then we wait for almost 24 to 48 hours to get back the best solution. So it takes really long if you had to do it purely computationally. And if you combine sort of players and computers, it could be a promising way to find solutions to problems. Yes, I would like to end here. Thank you so much. And maybe I just want to go back to the slide where if you want to download the game, this is the link. So it's only available on Windows and Mac now, and on the desktop. So we don't have a mobile version yet. We were planning to make one. That's because we thought, okay, if it's on the App Store, it reaches out to more people. But it was really a heavy game to have it on mobile. And then you need you need a math library because of all the mathematical modeling that happens, it needs to speak to some math library, and then that was really heavy. So if there's any audience, if there's any like programmer in the audience, they would sort of know the math library. And yes, I guess that's it. I'd like to end here. Thank you everyone.
Thanks, Shaeema, for such an interesting lecture and introducing us to how you can make quantum physics exciting for people to participate in. I think, there's one question from a really young audience in here, and he would like to know, I think he's probably quite young, say maybe in 8th or 9th class. And it's the last bit of your presentation where you spoke about why are we doing this game. Can you just simplify it a bit more for somebody really, really young trying to understand why are we doing this, and what is the potential implication for this particular bit? Yeah.
Okay, fine. I think so we have usually when we have a some difficult problem, we think the computer is the best way to solve it because computers are fast, they find very accurate solutions and so on. But then for the computer to find these accurate solutions, we as researchers or scientists, we have to tell the computer what to do. Okay, and that's sometimes, so when you make the game, when you have a game and people play the game, you have many people giving us ways to tell what the computer should do. And that's what the power of the game is. So if there are two people working on the problem, so we'll be like, oh, okay, maybe we should try this. Of course, it also comes from some knowledge because we studied about the quantum physics problem. So we know some equations. So we'll have to work it out and say, oh, okay, these are the good ways, we should try it out. But there are only two brains or two people working on this. But at the same problem, you distribute it to everyone and everyone plays it. You get a variety of solutions. And that's why we wanted to make a game out of it. And then, but we weren't sure if this was going to work or not. And, but it seems at this point that it is working. We've found some interesting solutions the computer has not found, or even we as researchers couldn't think and we think it's because we saw the problem from only one perspective. But when players play it, they see it purely as a game, and they will do anything to get that high score. So to get that high score, since they want to do anything, they'll try multiple times. They'll try out different ways, and these different ways is what is valuable to us. I hope I answered the question more simply than, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a very, very interesting answer, I would say, like trying to solve complex problems using crowdsourcing ideas, and where we are trying to see different perspectives in play into solving one kind of a question. I think that was a very, very well elaborated, Shaeema. So we have another question from someone. Um, Someone asking about okay, so this is a bit philosophical, I would say. They are saying so this question is about online versus physical games. So they are like uh, in these times kids are already on the devices very much, so shouldn't we be looking at more sort of play versus, like, the whole playing games on the computer aspect of it, like social emotional learning bits. Your thought? I think you've engaged with kids so much with live hands-on science. So I think there's nobody better qualified than you to answer this question. So
Yeah. So yeah, I know what you mean. Now this game, I have also used it for education. So usually when we made the game, we actually went to schools. That was the first place we went to, and we used the game to teach them about quantum physics as well. The game itself does not teach you anything about atoms or quantum, but we made on the side we made some slides, and so we would use those slides and use the game to also teach them about very basic things about atom, like when we move the atom, why is the atom sloshing? So it's like the water is like sloshing. So why does that happen to the atom? So we would sort of dive into that. But for that, we would have separate slides. So I think it can be also used as an educational game. But if it's a standalone game, one might think it's a waste of time. But if you look at it from that way, your solutions, you are contributing to science in a very non-conscious way, and I think that's also wonderful that way. And there's the other part is where it comes from, I think, more cognitive science. That's when they also say games are always not that bad. That's because when you play games, you're in this own zone of being in your world. You're not afraid to make mistakes in games. So that's why games can also be a very effective way to teach people things, because the game is you and your game are just communicating with each other, and then you're not afraid to make mistakes. So games are always not bad all the time, but yeah, overuse of games and spending all your time in games is probably not the best thing. Yeah.
okay, thank you, Shaeema. That was again very interesting to hear, in that sense that contributing to science in a non-conscious way. And when we are doing science as a scientist, we seem to have that unidirectional perspective, and we are so much into solving that we miss out on crucial aspects. And I think being that non-conscious, having that non-conscious space where you are not afraid to make mistakes, as you said, is of course someone is able to contribute. So that's a double win. So we're getting a lot of comments on our YouTube channel. People seem to really like it, and I must say, had somebody explained quantum mechanics to me like this when I was in class 11th or 12th, I think it would have been really cool. So I'm sure even for slightly younger kids, it may be just purely fun-driven tool, but for elder students, it can be really a very interesting and useful visualization. So we have more questions coming on. This one question from Himadri. He's saying, what if layman people play, or concerned technical people play? Does it make any difference to the optimization? Because you've had 1,500 people playing so far. Do you have any data on those aspects of it, like what age group and what technical background people are playing it?
Yeah. So we actually don't have so much data on it, because now there are some consent laws, so GDPR laws. So when you open the game, actually that the first thing that they'll ask you is this, that we're collecting your data, but your data is, so we haven't looked into that, but there is a huge possibility to look into and compare experts versus non-experts, or someone new to the game, or someone who's already playing the game for a long time. Yeah, but we haven't seen that yet, but we're actually considering it.
Okay, so Thanks, Shaeema. So the next question is, what are the potential applications of these games? What sort of complex problems can these be used to solve? Do you have any specific examples in Indian scenario or any case studies or anything in that regard?
Okay, so we had in the game we had 3 problems that were based on a real experiment. So these real experiment, one was based on a research group had proposed an architecture where I remember I showed that picture where you have a plane of atoms and then the laser comes from the top.
Yeah.
So that architecture is going to be used to build a quantum computer. So where you have different atoms on the plane and you can move the atoms and make atoms interact to make mathematical calculation. So that was the application would be there. So let's say these solutions are used in a real experiment. In that particular experiment, then it could provide solutions to how we can build a quantum computer. But we're still far away from it. It would be what is here now, and when the quantum computer will be built, there are many years in between. So it's but there is a potential there. The other thing is we also had the level on making the experiment is based on making interferometer. So you can create interference patterns with light now. So let's say you have 2 different light sources and you put it together, you can have an interference pattern. But what an experiment is trying to do, they're trying to create an interference pattern made out of atoms. So using this wave nature of atoms to create a interference pattern, and you make an interferometer, which is going to be many times much more sensitive than a light interferometer. So these are some applications.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shaeema. So somebody is asking about the quantum computing aspect, I think, which may be slightly outside the domain of the talk, but I would still ask this. So what are the advantages of quantum computing if we are able to sort of solve, the bottleneck that is stopping them from coming? I think it's leading to more security and all, if you can shed some light on that aspect.
Yeah. Okay. So, so first I think to understand, it's like the quantum computer will be really fast. It can do many. So now when you have some operations happening in a normal computer, so everything happens in a normal computer as zeros and ones. So it's like whatever you type in the computer only knows a 0 and a 1. Yeah. But in a quantum computer, you can have the 0 and 1s at the same time. So you can have many calculations at the cost of 1. So that's when you reduce the time of computation and it happens exponentially down. So that's what, and it's going to be mostly used in research domains where you need to try out many combinations and then the computer has to do that for you. But a normal computer would take really long, even days, to come up with solutions. So it could be, most of it is also used in drug design, where you want to find out different combinations of molecules. And but there are so many combinations that can be done that the computer will take so much longer. But with a quantum computer, all those combinations can be made at the same time, can be checked at the same time, which will work or not. Same as security. If you have a code. Let's say you have a 4-number code. So every time you try the code, you would have many ways. You would have to try each time to crack the code. But with a quantum computer, you can try out many combinations at one go. So it reduces the computation time exponentially. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Shaeema, we have another question from Sagar, who is asking, you tried these problems on the games that people were solving. So what is the difference in computation time compared to when it is being done on the game and when it is being done on a computer cluster?
Yes. So when it's done on the game, we actually don't have to worry about computer power at all, because that happens on the player's end. So on average, you play once. If you want to optimize it fully, it would take 5 minutes. But we've also seen players, what they do is they play the game, they press optimize, and then they just go outside to eat something and come back, and it's still optimizing. So so some players do that. as well. We saw some players who optimized a lot, like for 600, 700 iterations to optimize it.
Wow.
But these are some rare cases. So either they were very motivated, or but we also saw while it was optimizing, they weren't doing anything. So it was sitting really idle. So our guess is that the player left it for optimization and went away. And so the computational power, the computational time on the player's end is hard to tell. It depends how many times they're optimizing, how long they're optimizing, what they're optimizing. But when we do it in our computer cluster, it's sort of, we know more how long it takes. Yeah. And that's also the beauty, because we don't have to worry about computational power then if a lot of players also play it.
Okay. Thank you, Shaeema. We have a question, Jari. They're asking, how can we integrate these models into course teacher's perspective? So if you can elaborate on how to download everything and how they could, if there are any material that you could share with them, if you can share it with us, we will email it out to people who are interested in getting these resources and everything.
Okay, yeah, great. So there is a player guide that comes along with the game, and that's what we use for education. So I can send the player guide to you, Darshana, and then we can share it. It's free to use along with the game, but it's meant to be used along with the game. So there's a question which says, explore this in the game. So you play the game, then you come back, answer some questions, then again go back to the game. So it's just back and forth between an activity sheet and the game. And I can send that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Shaeema. That'll be really useful. Okay, so yeah, for our viewers, we will also share the player guide on the link of the video as well. Shaeema, you are okay with us sharing it in the YouTube description video, right? If that's okay.
This about the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah,
Sure. The player guide is not online now because we actually keep on making changes to it quite often. So we don't have it online, but the player guide, I can send it separately. But the game, you, of course, feel free to put the link on the game. I can, okay. You have the link. I can send it to you also. It's fine.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question from Antariksh Bhardwaj. So they're asking, ma'am, can you please explain quantum tunneling, and if someone has explored it in the game, like if I can visualize it in the game.
Yeah. Actually, in the game, you can visualize quantum tunneling. So quantum tunneling is, it's okay. Actually, I have two glasses. I think this will be most easiest to explain if I have
that's fabulous
to do it.
Yeah.
So when, let's say I have water in one glass, and then I have, okay, I'm just making sure you can see. So quantum tunneling could be this water magically, so to speak, magically goes to this this glass. Because now, in our day-to-day life, unless I pour the water to this glass, only then the water can go. But imagine if this water was atom, and if I had two glasses very close, it could just go through the walls of the glass and go to the other empty glass. So this is what actually atoms can do. But only under special conditions. If the glass was far away and it was more far than the energy of the atom, then it wouldn't go. But if you have it closer, then it could go from one glass to the other just through the walls of the glass. Yes. Okay. So I guess that would be my,
So it can be visualized also. That was a very, very interesting explanation, Shaeema. Like the two talks, cool, well done on that. But they can visualize it on the computer as well, right?
Yeah, you can visualize in the game also.
Okay, great. So now next question is from Chandrabali. They're asking, what about the privacy concerns? Is it secure for various nodes to play this game, or is it going to store something, at the back end?
Yeah, so so when you download the game, first you have to log in. That's because we need a player ID. And the player ID for us is just a bunch of numbers. Some A, B, 1, 2, 3. So we have no information about the player. We have no information. There is one database because it asks for your email address. So we have one database that just has the email address. But for us as researchers, we don't care about the email address. So that is anonymized. So when we see the database, we just see a bunch of numbers and a combination of numbers and letters, which becomes like a unique ID. It's something like when you want to log in sometimes and the website wants to give you a suggested password and you have a combination of numbers and letters.
Yeah.
For us, it looks like that. So there are no privacy breaches that happen. And before you play the game, there's a consent form that comes, and then once you agree to it, only then we start taking data. So if you don't agree to it, then of course, then we can't collect data from you.
Okay. Thank you. So this question is from Priya. So she's like, how did you get interested into doing this exciting stuff about your like during your PhD? Like, what prompted you to go into quantum computing, gaming, and all? So,
Okay. Yeah, I think it was. So before I started doing my PhD, when I was in ZLife, this was in New Delhi. So over there, we actually had some games as well, but we made more physical games actually. So I've always been into board games, but not so much into online games actually. But I like the idea of games. And but during my time in ZLife, we also used a lot of board games in our astronomy clubs and astronomy workshops. And so that way I was in doing workshops. So when I got into this PhD, one of the thing was that we could use this game for education as well. So sort of reaching out to people, reaching out to different students and making them play the games. That's how it got me interested, yeah. And before doing my PhD, I was doing an internship. So when I did the internship, I got the feel of it a little bit, like, and how it would be like. I didn't think I was necessarily skilled at it because I've never designed games, but then it works out because you're working with an interdisciplinary team. Yeah.
Okay. Great, Shaeema. This question is from me. So, are you presently working at ScienceAtHome as well, parallelly, or is it completely separate from your PhD? And is it a combined one? And what is it like to work at ScienceAtHome? What kind of activities are you doing in that organization?
Okay, so ScienceAtHome. Yes, I'm currently, my PhD is. It's a little bit okay. My PhD is linked to Aarhus University, but the office I sit in is at ScienceAtHome. So ScienceAtHome is a research company under Aarhus University.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that was clear enough.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But what is the kind of activities is ScienceAtHome engaged in? The reason why I ask is I just wanted to compare the science engagement scenario in Denmark to India, and this is one of the interests of VigyanShaala. So I'm just asking this from my side.
Yeah, so we have what kind of activities? We have play game sessions. So whenever we have a new game launching, so even outside physics. So we have games even outside physics or psychology. We have economics games. So whenever a new game comes out, we organize gameplay sessions. So those are some events that I think VigyanShaala could. Whenever a gameplay session happens, I could also let you know, and we could also have them play the game. We have some talks that happen. So my supervisor also gives lots of talks and conducts workshops. So those are also the other kind of events and workshops. Apart from that, we have internally, we're working on always testing new research problems and new ideas. And we have different groups who come up with questions and we're like, okay, let's try it out.
Okay, so yeah, so there's one more question from Antariksh Bhardwaj. They say, ma'am, does quantum looping exist in quantum physics? I saw in some movie where a day repeats until some external energy is used. So, I like your reaction to that.
Yeah. Nowadays, a lot of these movies pack many concepts from quantum physics or theory of relativity or yeah. So what one can, I mean, theoretically, you can. So when I'm also trying to understand quantum looping, this word, I think it basically going back in time, right? I guess that's what
I think so. You are indefinitely in that loop.
Yeah,
See, I think the second law of thermodynamics says that arrow of time is unidirectional, but I think they're trying to see if it can just loop inside itself, which I don't think it exists. I haven't heard of this. And this is a filmmaker's imagination completely. Yeah. I think
there are many theories that exist. Like so far, experimentally, it hasn't been done. But some theories actually say that if you under these constraints, if you have the energy of the system more than the potential energy, then you can be trapped in the system. But they've all been done only through theory. Yeah. It's a similar thing like when black holes came up first, only in theory, and it was only experimentally found later, 1960s, I think, and the theory was done back in 1919. So who knows? We could find some experimental.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about it. I didn't do a string theory course or anything. So if I said anything wrong, I am sorry. So I haven't done a specialist course in quantum, this string theory and advanced quantum mechanics. So I'm not a person to comment on that. So Shaeema, one more question from my side. So you are doing quantum games, but are there any other games that are simulating different branches of like problems from different branches of physics, per se, either soft matter or the clustering mechanics or semiconductors or anything?
So these there's one on that. There's one on fermions.
Okay.
Then there's one on, but these other the Rydberg atoms and the fermions, I didn't work on them. And then now I'm making another one, which is called Lab Manager. So you manage a lab. So you're like a researcher and you have to conduct experiments, and you have a lab. So you also hire students, you buy equipment, you have to apply for grants, like how in academics, we are always applying for grants because we need money to buy equipment and pay our salaries. So you can do all that. So it's a management game. So that is coming out soon. The moment that comes out, I'll let you know.
Oh,
and
wow.
So
that's really exciting. I think these can be really good teaching aids for both in school as well as in college. So I'll definitely look it up and share it with our audience. And I think this is going to be the last question, again from Antariksh. They're saying, I'm in 10th standard and I really want to experiment quantum tunneling in real life. So how should I do it?
Okay, so to be honest, you cannot do an experiment in quantum tunneling now with everyday things. I mean, I just try to show an example, but you'll be happy to know that quantum tunneling is always happening inside your body, like when it's happening inside cells. So when cells merge, that's where quantum tunneling is happening. There's quantum tunneling happening every day in the sun, because the fact that you see light from the sun is because at the core you have quantum tunneling happening. So it's actually happening around you all the time. You don't see it directly and you can't perform it directly. You have to do a very specific experiment. So sorry, with current everyday things, it's not possible to do it. And that's also because we are dealing with things that are very big, like this is few centimeters big, but we have to think about something that's nanometers, and nano is like 0.00, like 9 zeros. So it's really, really small. You can't even see it.
Yeah. And we don't have things at home that can help us visualize those. So I think that's where such games come in handy. Antariksh, you can see them, see all these quantum tunneling and everything happening on these games and enjoy yourself while you're trying to solve them. So I hope you will go and check out this particular game and enhance your learning of quantum mechanics and to the other physics aspects, and also while contributing to the advancement of scientific research, of course. So please join me in thanking Shaeema for such an engaging and amazing lecture. I really enjoyed, understanding the whole quantum mechanical phenomena from a new lens of gaming. I'm not much of a gamer myself, but I'm definitely going to give this a try. So thank you, Shaeema, once again. And we are going to stop our live stream now. For our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us or leave in the comments. We will share it with Shaeema. And we will also be sharing, for the registered participants, we will be sharing the booklet, how to go about the game that Shaeema will share with us, and the link to the game will be soon posted in the description of the video. All right, so we look forward to having you all again for the next video. Next video, maybe next Saturday. So thanks once again, Shaeema, for such an amazing.
Thank you so much, Darshana. Thank you, audience. I can't see the comments or anything, but also very interesting questions. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Shaeema.
Link.
Yeah. So link she will share with us. Yeah. So please email me the link, Shaeema, later.
Okay, so I'll email you the link of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Vijay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's done, right?